Hello, my name is Steve Hermann. I'm the author of Mediumship Mastery, the Ultimate Guide, which is available on Amazon, and I'm really into the teaching aspect of mediumship. Mediumship is fantastic, and if you're a practicing medium, if you're studying mediumship, the more you can expand and grow, it's just going to be better for the spirit personalities to work through you. It's interesting, over the years as a medium traveling around the world and demonstrating in many countries, it's amazing how many mediums don't really have an understanding of the mechanics or the history of mediumship or spiritualism or related subjects. But it really is helpful if you understand intellectually how it works. It's great to have the ability to bring the spirit people through, for the spirit chemists to be able to produce phenomena through these types of things. But it's also really good, if you're a medium, to have intellectually a grasp of how it works. And I know in my own studies as a medium, as I was naturally open, but when I really started training in mediumship, investigating it, going to classes, I started reading a lot of books. And I've got here in my bedroom in California, I've got 7 bookcases of books. Now, pretty much all of these books are on mediumship, they're on spiritualism, they're on healing, metaphysics, spirituality, and related subjects. And I'm really into reading because I'm really into the teaching aspect of it. And it always was very difficult for me when I started studying mediumship just to find books that explain the nuts and bolts of how it worked. You know, the mechanics of the process. And some of the best books were books which were just completely out of print and not available. Now, if we talk about just books on mediumship development, I mean, just really focused on developing your abilities as a medium, there's not that many fantastic books out there. And there's definitely strengths or weaknesses to particular books. But I've got my favorite books. Now, there's a lot of other books out there too, both more recently published, as well as even ones that are older that I'm not going to mention. And I'm pretty familiar with what's out there. I've really done a pretty extensive put a lot of extensive work just into looking and seeing what is out there and actually obtaining them and reading them. But these are books which I highly recommend as a teacher, as an educator with mediumship unfoldment. And some of them are recent, but a lot of them are ones that you would have to find online. And what's really good is there's quite a few books which are out of print because they're so old. The copyrights have expired and they're now within the public domain. Consequently, you can obtain reprint editions of them for reasonable prices, or even in some cases download for free online. And the first books, which I'm going to show you, are actually 2 different books, although they really go together. And they were written by Ron Gibbs, and he was a British medium who immigrated to New Zealand back in the 1950s. And these books, I actually got them when I first went to New Zealand to work back in 1999 when I was on tour. And it's Your Psychic Faculties, How They Operate, the Mechanics of Mediumship, and Your Psychic Faculties, Rules to Follow, Pitfalls to Avoid. And these are excellent books. Not a bunch of baloney. It's not about Ron Gibbs. It's about how to develop as a medium, what mediumship is. So you probably could, I know in New Zealand they still have copies for sale. You can probably get these online somewhere. I've got a stack of them here. But I recommend this book highly. Ron Gibbs, wonderful man, wonderful medium. And when he was here, he had so much to offer. He even put out a regular spiritualist newspaper when he was here. So these books I recommend, Your Psychic Faculties, both part 1 and part 2. The other book, which I highly recommend, is a book by Welsh medium Stephen O'Brien, which is called The Power of Your Spirit. And this book, as far as I'm concerned from reading, it's very, very, very good, because he's really like me. He's into teaching, and he's into helping people develop their mediumship. And it really, from what I can tell, it's probably the same material that he uses in his school for mediumship in Swansea to teach student mediums and healers. And this book is excellent. I highly recommend it. It's still available. He's got a lot of other really good books, more about himself and his work as a medium. But this specifically is good because it deals with mediumistic development. And he's a very sincere, genuine medium, very spiritually oriented. The other book on mediumship, which I recommend highly, and I was really happy when I saw this put out, and this is called Where Two Worlds Meet. And it's a book by Janet Nahavik. Suzanne Greisman, I believe, is the ghost writer, so to speak, who wrote it for her. But it's really good. And Janet's a wonderful medium. She runs the Journey Within School for Mediumship in New Jersey. She studied with Leonard Young, and he was great. He was in the SNU in the UK, British medium, and he used to come over to the States a lot and work. Very, very, very good with his presentation. And she's very, very, very sincere with what she's doing. But this book, Where Two Worlds Meet, it really goes into what I would call the typical British or SNU approach to mediumship. And there's a particular structure and form. In fact, a lot of people who study at Arthur Findlay, or they study at Stansted in the UK, they would learn a lot of this type of approach. But it's very nice because it's in this book. It's not really about her per se. It's about development. And if you read this, it will greatly enhance what you're doing as a medium. I guarantee it. The other book, which I highly recommend, and this is a classic, and this is written by Ursula Roberts. Ursula Roberts, she was a British medium. I had a chance to meet her and hang out a bit with her back in 1994 in the Isle of Wight and Shankland in the UK. And she wrote a lot of good books on spiritualism and mediumship development. This is a very thin book. It's called Hints on Mediumship Development. And there's a lot of different reprint editions of this that you can buy. I read this, I remember 40 years ago reading this. It's a fantastic book. Now, it's not so much about the mechanics of mediumship, but it will really give you a very deeper comprehension on how to unfold mediumship, how to work and approach mediumship. Ursula Roberts was, as a trance medium, channeled one of her teachers, this ancient Egyptian pharaoh Ramadan, and there's quite a few books out with the teachings of Ramadan and other books besides this on mediumship development. But because this focuses completely on the unfoldment part, I'm recommending you get it. The other book, which I really like, which is actually, you can get a lot of different places. It's a very old book going back to 1900, and it's called A Guide to Mediumship and Psychical Unfoldment by E.W. M.H. Wallace. They were British mediums. And this is very, 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 very in-depth, very good when it comes to mediumistic development, which I highly recommend that you read this. Now, it's a bit archaic in terms of the style of writing, but it will give you a very thorough comprehension about how to sit for development, how to sit for physical phenomena, things of this type of sort. And it really goes way beyond a lot of the more modern books which are put out, Hay House or different publishers, which usually just focus on the medium, how wonderful the medium is, and they have all these different stories, anecdotes of different sessions the medium has done. That stuff is pretty superficial level. That's why I'm recommending these books, because they're not on a superficial level. They're actually written by people who are mediums, who are really into it as part of the craft and really into helping people, not just promoting themselves. Now, the other thing is What Mediumship Is by Horace Leaf. And Horace Leaf was a British medium. He toured all over the world. He went to New Zealand, he went to Australia, he was in Iceland, and other parts of Europe, in the States. He used to run things at Lilydale going back in the 1920s and 30s. He went all over the place teaching. And this book, What Mediumship Is, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. Excellent book for the mechanics of mediumship. And he understood how mediumship worked and the psychology of it. So if you can get this book, it will really, really help you with your development. The other book that I wanted to endorse is A Guide for the Development of Mediumship by Harry Edwards. Harry Edwards was very, very well known for his work with spiritual healing, that phase of mediumship. But he also was a fantastic trance medium. Harry Edwards sat in physical circles, and he was very open to the spirit world. And this book, A Guide for the Development of Mediumship, has actually originally appeared in this book called Life and Spirit. And it's a chapter in the back, an appendix in the back. But people liked it so much they took it out and people separated it and printed it as a separate book. And this short book, it's non-pretentious. It's very, 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 very good. It really gets into things in depth, and it will help you considerably if you're involved in the development. Now, there's a lot of other books that are out there too, and I do want to also endorse my own book, Mediumship Mastery. And I wrote this book because really if the problem is all these books out there, but most of them just on a very basic, superficial type of level, which certainly books like that have their place. But this book is for mediums at all levels of development, whether you're novice or you're more experienced. And it also really gets into training as a medium. There's 84 different exercises in it, and there's many teachers worldwide who have let me know that they're utilizing this book and its contents for the instruction of their own classes and development. So I hope that this has given you some ideas. Now you want to go on Amazon or eBay, or you want to start investigating and picking up some of these books, but you can never stop learning. There's certainly a lot of other books out there which are classics, some of the older editions as well that are no longer published other than as reprints. But I encourage you to get into this more, pick up some of these books and learn from them. And if you like my channel, please subscribe. Please share this with your friends. If you've got any comments or suggestions, feel free to make them below. I teach a lot of online courses and in-person courses as well. Please subscribe and please keep in touch, and may God bless each and every one of you.